Hey guys, we have had so many requests on Instagram to cover the indoor plants that we have at our house. So we have a real range of plants here. We live in New Zealand, so the climate is pretty temperate. It's I guess it gets to about -2 in the winter and then up to 35 absolute max in the summer. So it's nothing too intense. On our blog, moochstyle.com, we have covered all our indoor plants before, but that was about a year ago, and since then we have some new additions to the family, and we've also seen our plants grow quite considerably since then as well. So I wanted to just quickly run you guys through a few tips and tricks on keeping them alive, because I know that that's a big problem for most people, and also why we have these ones in our house. We're quite selective with the plants, purely because we don't like spending all the money on the plants and then watching them die. So yeah, here's a guide to indoor plants. So the first plant we have is this fiddle leaf fig on our sideboard. This one is quite small. We've had it for maybe 2 years, and that is as big as it's got. Fiddle leaf figs don't grow hugely fast, so you do need to pay the extra money if you want a bigger one. This one here, I water maybe every 3 weeks. Just a little bit of water, maybe that much in a cup, is all it needs. We find with the smaller plants that they tend to need more watering than the big plants because the small pots dry up a lot faster. This one here, we just tend to wipe the leaves with a cloth because they can pick up a lot of dust because the leaves are quite big. If you find the leaves are starting to go yellow, it's time to water it, or just check for bugs or anything like that, because it's basically telling you that it is sick. This one here, we found that a few leaves have fallen off over time, and that's probably because I've left it too long between waterings. I'm talking like a month to 2 months. Today I've switched it around, and that's because this here, you can see it's quite flat. That there was actually facing the wall today, so I just switched it around and then in hope that they will grow towards the sun like that back one there. The old classic, the peace lily. So the peace lily, if you've owned one before, you'll know how hardy they are. They will wilt, and then you give them a good feed of water, and then the leaves pop up straight away. If the ends tends to brown like this, it's probably because you're not feeding them enough, so you need to be giving them more water. They are quite versatile plants, so you can stick them in the sun, in the shade, it doesn't really matter. This one here gets a little bit of sunlight, but nothing direct. And we found that it flowers more than any other peace lily we have had. And that's probably because it hasn't got direct sunlight on it. They're really easy plants to maintain as well. They don't shed, they don't... The flowers don't produce a huge amount of pollen, and they're also air purifiers, so really good for your house. This plant here in the corner is what they call a cast iron plant. So the cast iron plant is basically like cast iron. This one here never gets watered. I always forget about it, and I realized that I have forgotten about it when the leaves literally just drop down like this, and then you give them a good water and then they come back to normal. In the springtime, they have these little flowers. They're like brown flowers that are down in the soil. So they look a little bit weird, but they are flowers, and that's its way of flowering. This plant can last up to 60 years, so it's quite a hardy plant, and it doesn't need a whole lot of sunlight either. We have a veranda out the front, and you can see here that it's not the most illuminated room, and that's because of that veranda. So these plants that we have in here, the peace lily, fiddle leaf fig, and the cast iron plant, are perfect for that because they don't need a huge amount of sunlight. So when you do go to water this, I recommend giving it probably a decent amount of water. I tend to actually just stick it under the sprinkler for about 5 minutes, and you can literally just put it in the shower and then just hose it off a bit, and that way you can clean the leaves as well. You just got to be careful with these leaves that you don't pull too much water on them, because it could end up snapping the leaf. It's quite a leathery style leaf. It's not a glossy leaf, and they're quite rough textured as well. We have another fiddle leaf fig in our kitchen. So it's just at the entrance there, and then we've got the dining area here, very small. But it's quite a big fiddle leaf fig, this one. It's much bigger than the one that you saw in our living room. You can see the beautiful colours there as well. It's really nice, this one, and much like the one in the living room, it doesn't require a huge amount of water. Just make sure that you do have a pot that's relative to the size of the plant.
I'll say to give the leaves a wee clean, you just grab a damp cloth and then you just gently wipe them. Pretty easy.
Okay, so this is like our holy grail of plants. I'm not sure if you watched our most recent YouTube video on renovating on a budget. Well, this here was in it, and we intended to make this room like a botanical theme, and so that's why we built this shelving system. So behind me here is what you call a grapevine. So with the grapevine, it was about this big when we bought it 2 years ago. We bought it for this house. It was originally in our lounge in a hanging pot, but when we built this we thought, well, it looks cool on the end there, so we'll just put it up there. Now that one there is quite temperamental, so you need to give it water every, say, 2 weeks, otherwise the leaf starts to curl up like that. And you can see here that it does sort of take its own form, so you just have to trim it as you want. You could even add some weights to it if you wanted it to grow faster, or down in a line in the direction that you want it to go in. This one here is called an arrowhead. Now the arrowheads come in so many different, I guess, species. They can come in green, red, yellow, white. So this one here is one of the most standard breeds that you get from your hardware stores, your nurseries. This one here will always be there. It grows quite fast, and a lot of people don't like that drooping that you can see there, so they trim it off. You can easily transport these ones into different pots as well. So all you need to do is go right to the base of the stem, give it a snip, and then put it into a compost dirt mixture with lots of water in it, and in about 10 to 15 days you'll have roots coming off that. So it's really, really easy. Now these ones here are basically unkillable. If you kill one of these, you're doing something wrong. It just needs a little splash of water maybe every 2 weeks, and it'll just keep it nice and firm. This one here is called a dichondra. Now the dichondra I actually bought for $1.50 from a supermarket, so it wasn't much at all. The dichondras are actually made to be floor covering plants, so if you have a space in a garden with lots of area for you to fill out, you buy a dichondra. But you'll also find them draping over pots or hanging in plants, and just recently a lot of people actually have them in pictures and prints and stuff that you can buy online. Again, this one here, I can easily forget to water it, just like the rest of them, I guess. So when you forget to water this one, it dies. So you will see in here that it's actually got some depth in it. That's because I forgot to water it. So you have to always make sure that you keep on top of your watering schedule if you're going to have indoor plants. If it does die, just leave it in there and the new growth will sort of take over. This one here is about 1 year old, and as I said, it was like 15-20 centimeters when we bought it, and now it's just this magnificent climber, I guess. This one here is what they call a ZZ plant. I'm not even going to try and pronounce its real name. So the ZZ, or sorry if you're overseas, you probably call it a ZZ plant. This is an air purifier, so it's really good for it, especially like a bedroom, a lounge, whatever, a living space, a nursery. You'll notice a trend with all our plants in our house that they are really versatile, really hardy plants, and that's because I don't want to keep on top of the watering schedules too much and have them all die when you pay like anywhere between $30 and $150 a plant. Except for this one that was $1.50. So the ZZ plant, you need to water it like never, and it stays alive. So when I water it, I basically just water it to clean the leaves. I put it in the shower and quickly turn on the shower head and water the leaves, and then it's done. That's all you need, and you only need to do that, say, every 3 to 4 months. You don't need to overwater them. They're also really easy plants to transplant, just like the arrowhead. You just snip it at the bottom and then you can replant it in a pot. Make sure that there's lots of water and you're good to go. Thanks so much for watching the video. I hope that gave you a little bit of inspiration and advice as well on how to keep indoor plants alive. So just remember to keep up with the watering. Don't overwater, because that could be as bad as not watering. And also that it is easy once they're big enough to just snip them off and propagate them again, so you can have more plants to enjoy in your house. Hit subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and follow @MoochStyle. And don't forget to check out our blog, moochstyle.com. If there's anything in this video that you want to know more about, or if you want to see more videos like this, just let us know below and we'll be sure to cover it and answer any questions. Thanks so much, team.